Hi. In 2017, actually, the first time when I visited Arunachal Pradesh, I went there to take classes for civil services aspirants. I also used to take geography, history, and all. So, when I saw, especially the women there, the kind of freedom they enjoy, the kind of less restrictions they have compared to what their counterparts enjoy in the mainland and South India, I used to tell them one thing: the most important thing that has protected you, or especially which has protected you from the outside interference and the other evils of patriarchy as such, is actually the way the environment and the mountains have protected you, actually. Because usually, if you look into the invading armies, wherever they have come, they have looted and plundered, and usually it happened for across the centuries in the Indian mainland. But the northeastern area was particularly guarded, or especially the hill states were particularly guarded because of the geography and the mountains, actually. So I always used to say that in many ways, when in the name of rampant development, when these mountains or particularly the environment is tampered with, uh, within maybe 100 or 200 years, you will lose certain things that you may have gained through the generations. So when although I told these things just say 8 or 9 years before, when this landslide of Wayanad and the Western Ghats in particular happened, certain of those things actually come to my mind, and that is what I wanted to discuss, and also certain insights into the Gadgil committee, and in a way, my opinion on how to tackle these things. First of all, I am not an environmental expert. I do have certain understanding of history and geography from my teaching background, and also my experience as a teacher. I have traveled in my during my experience as a teacher. I have traveled all throughout India, especially in a very just say that two important biological hotspots of India. Just say the Western Ghats as well as the Eastern Himalayas. So these two places I have traveled, and there it shows much geographical resemblances also. See, what has happened in places like Wayanad or the Western Ghats, and why people are dying due to repeated of these flooding issues. First of all, you have to understand that these people are the subsequent generation of a group which has migrated. I am talking particularly with reference to Kerala in 1930s and 40s. Just say during the Second World War, there used to be a huge famine-like situation, and even when Green Revolution actually started in India, that was in the 1970s. Till the time of 1935 to 1970, that time, if you know, if you do have people of the older generation in your household, they would tell you how lucky you were if you had at least one square meal a day. Okay, so that is the time even when the government and all in a way incentivize the people to actually go migrate to these kind of higher up echelons in the mountain ranges, and clear forest. They started agriculture, and they at the same time they did cash crops also. They did the plantation of cash crops also, say pepper, clove, and even say rubber as per se. So, but what happened lately was that population also got increased, and these areas are actually ecologically sensitive zones. If this would have happened, if such a scenario would have happened in the present generation, or at a time when the environmental laws are very strict and the people are much aware, such a migration and such a dislocation of population would not have happened, and this same would not have happened in any developed country at that time also. But at that point of time, people did it, and their next to next generation are still there. But what happened at present is most of these areas, due to the high amount of rainfall and the climate change, is being subjected to repeated floods. Okay, and that is when the Western Ghats Empanelment Committee of 2010-11 under Dr. Madhav Gadgil had submitted a report, and you know, all of you know the hue and cry after the report, and what happened subsequently. But if you actually look into the report, I don't know how many people have actually really read the report. Madhav Gadgil has not particularly said anything about dislocating people and all those things. He was mostly, even I remember hearing a few interviews of Madhav Gadgil. The same thing that I emphasized on this Northeast about the tribal communities, the protecting their environment. Here said like Kerala's had the tradition of Sarpa cows, right? Sarpa cow means these were the protected forests nearby the temples. If you look into the Northeast, you have the Gumba Mandirs, Gumba forest is there for the Buddhists, and I can say the sacred groves in a similar tradition is also worshipped. So that shows that the tribal religions or the people who were in the hilly areas, mostly tribals, were in close unison with the nature, and their spirituality and their religion was closely linked with the nature. That is what made them survive for a longer period of time. And now look at what happened with the modern religions coming there, setting up their churches, mosques, temples, or whatnot. And despite of all their hues and cries to the God, everything got washed away. So what does that mean at the end of the day? At the end of the day, this clearly shows the age-old wisdom that there is nothing like maybe a God on the top of the sky, but the nature itself is God. And when you tamper with the nature beyond a limit, no matter however spiritual you are going to get washed away by the laws of nature. So here, then what is the way forward? I mean, and I never want to end these things in a bad note. I want to tell you a way forward. Way forward in many ways, what Madhav Gadgil has said. See, you do not have to take Gadgil's word as a biblical word or something like that. But many of those things, what he said, really makes sense from whatever that has happened otherwise also. He is not focusing on people to actually leave the area. What he has done, he has made them into these ecologically sensitive areas 1, 2, and 3. And certain areas, especially his report is mostly mentioning on certain areas where there is quarrying, mining activities, which has to be restricted, and the existing things has to actually follow Ministry of Environment and Forest regulations. And also, yes, one thing he has particularly said is about the local people participation, okay, in the form of panchayats or grama sabhas into this social audit, environment impact assessment, and in the similar way how tribal cultures actually protected the local environment. He wanted actually the local people to do the same in the form of say panchayati raj or municipalities or the local bodies. He has particularly emphasized on 73 or 74 Amendment Act, that's the Panchayati Raj Act. And I still remember he has said a few things, good things about Udumbanchola, how that local bodies have in a way protected the forest areas. So it's not a very pessimistic report as such, but it has very much elements of truth. The reason why I wanted to do this video is also to actually say the thing. Actually, when you are living in a way that is completely tampering with the environment, that butterfly effect sooner or later will backfire, and you will get the result of it. And the solution is not to eliminate the human beings. Human beings are also part and parcel of the nature. So that is how UNESCO and the environmental protection bodies have considered like that. That is the reason why we have the concept of biosphere reserves as well, where in the peripheral area there is the human interaction as well. So other than the core zone and all, there is a certain area where there is human settlements are also allowed. In this case also it should be allowed, but at the same time just say how the house should be constructed. Like when you construct a house, you just flat top the hill and top of it. When you consider certain things, it will affect the natural incline. And if you have so many quarrying activities, it can send shock waves. So what happens whenever there is a high amount of rainfall and there is a funneling effect of mountains, there is always a chance of landslide, and no god or no yaga, yajna or holy mass or anything cannot actually stop it. It's science, it's common sense, and even when we are living at certain areas, we have to follow certain precautions. For example, say Japanese have been living with earthquakes for years, decades. They have managed it with the help of the construction. Even in India, I can cite similar examples where I have traveled. I have seen like in Mizoram, where in these areas they have like huge pillared houses, like hotels and all. I still remember on the top of while we are just crossing a road, on one side you can see a small room which is a like front way reception of the hotel, but the main building would be main rooms would be all down. Why? Because the huge pillars are put like this, and the reason why it is put is because they do not want to disturb the natural incline of the mountain. So similar constructions are also there in Switzerland. I myself have visited it when I went to visit Mount Titlis back in 2015. So such constructions I hardly have seen anywhere in Kerala, whether it is in Idukki, Vagaman, or Wayanad, wherever it has been visited. So such constructions should be needed, and at the same time, the major reason I believe Gadgil committee and the subsequent, even the water down reports didn't become a reality, is because it actually touched the hotels and mining and quarrying mafia, I would say, which has a lot of political stakes involved. Irrespective of the parties, a lot of these politicians have resorts, they have quarries and quarrying there going on there. So they never wanted their cash cow to be stopped. So that is the reason why, unfortunately, the normal people are suffering. So from my experience, what I would say that, like, all this, like the tribal shamanistic religions which focused on nature for their spirituality, after years and years, after the advent of all the modern religions, now still we are going back to the same, because in a way mother nature itself is God. That's all I wanted to say. See you soon with another video. Take care.